set up. It always takes about 20 to 30 seconds to get it all going. So we're here. Should I do the cheesy joke just because I enjoy it? So yes, I will. So we're here for organic chemistry. Wouldn't you love to start your morning out with organic chemistry? For all my psych majors, that was their least favorite course. I had a lot of psych major friends. No, today we're talking about purpose and purpose-driven ecosystems, and my partner in crime is Ben DeBord. Hi, Ben.
Good morning.
So what we'll do is we'll start off with our oath, and then we'll get to it. So if everyone could put yourself on mute, make sure you're on mute, and then we'll just repeat after me, because it really doesn't sound good when we're all talking at the same time. I don't know if you've ever had that experience on Zoom or Teams or any of these, but it's bad. It'll give you a migraine. So I, Tiffany Joy Greene, do solemnly swear to accept a lifelong obligation to hone my superhero powers and apply those superhero powers to the good of the people I serve. I will promote and add to the ongoing success of Empower People, its members, and the people, organizations, and communities it serves. I help prepare the next generation of superheroes. I am driven to be a positive change agent for those I serve and interact with. And now I say strike a pose, Rose, superhero pose. It'll change your day. Okay. Okay, so today we're going to be talking about purpose and purpose ecosystems. We're going to talk a little bit about purpose alignment. I feel like it's kind of like the baseline of, the ecosystem that you signed up for. So I feel like we kind of got to understand what really purpose alignment, purpose ecosystems are. So that way when we're having our conversations, we're all using the same language in the way it's meant to be used. So we're going to talk about knowing yourself. I know that might, for us who are old enough to remember the 80s, we're not talking about that as the me generation from the 80s. We're going to talk about purpose alignment, purpose ecosystem, and then we'll have the Q&A session. For all of you should know me by now, but for those who don't, I was a psychology. No, I wasn't. I just say that because of organic chemistry. I just like saying that. No, my background is very diverse. I actually got a couple bachelor's degrees at once because I was told I was an overachiever. I don't know, just did. But poli-sci, pre-law, and philosophy. And I went to law school, and and I didn't get my law degree. I backed out of that sucker because I realized I didn't want to be a lawyer. And I got my MBA degree, and my whole career pretty much helped start up a variety of businesses and save businesses and close businesses. So I've run the gamut. So you could say I have a lot of experience in strategy, purpose strategy. As you get to work with me, you'll hear me reference my experience with General Motors, simply because how do you close plants, yet get people to work on their purpose and talk about purpose alignment. So I pull from that experience a lot, and I've written a few books and intend to write a few more. Those are just some of the books that I've written. Ben, do you want to talk a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, hello everyone. And whoops, was that on me to build this slide out? I do have a past. I'm not blank. I'm an ICF certified leadership coach, and just give you a little snippet of my past. As I look back, I've been a facilitator in learning and development across a whole lot of shapes and forms, from being a high school English teacher, teaching English as a second language, teaching yoga and meditation, and then into adult learning and development. And I've really found my niche in leadership development. And my purpose is, I believe everyone has the right to thrive. And I think when we think about our thinking, we become alive in a new way. And I've honed my abilities to be a thought partner in that space. And so I do that through one-to-one coaching, through leadership workshops, group coaching in awesome communities like this.
That I would like to add, Ben, that Ben's superhero name is Thrive Guide. So now you know why his superhero name is Thrive Guide. Mine is Manic Maple. If you know me, you probably can figure that one out pretty easy too. So let's talk about the know yourself exercise. How many people here are familiar with the SWOT analysis? Just raise your hand. Ooh, lots of people. Okay, so a SWOT analysis is simply stands for strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. I like to do, so this is the exercise I do, and I always say you don't want to confuse this with squats. We're not doing squats today, but we are going to be talking about squats. But if you're doing a SWOT with your business, I always add an extra T because I like to be different, and my first name starts with T. No, that's not why. It's SWOT because the extra T actually stands for threats. So when you're doing a SWOT analysis, though we're not talking about this part today, I just wanted, because you might see some materials coming up in Empower People and go, why is there this extra T? Because I like to talk about threats, not just the trends. And some people like to lump that in with other things, but I think it's important to make that its own letter. So let's talk about knowing yourself. So if you've been in grad school, business school, all this, they talk about SWOT analysis all the time. But, the first place I would encourage all of you to start, and we'll be working a little bit on this in our coaching and advising sessions that we'll have later on, is to do it on yourself. So looking at what are your own individual strengths. So what are you good at? What do you excel in? What sets you apart from others? What brings you joy? I like to reference for strength something I learned as a kid watching one of my all-time favorite people, Oprah. Oprah talked about in one of her shows when I was a little girl, the idea of knowing what your purpose was and what you're meant to do based on how you played as a little child before the world and society got in your way. Those tend to be clues into what you love and what your purpose is. So as you're thinking about, your strengths, you might want to keep that in mind. Ben, did you have anything you'd like to add there?
Yeah, I would say, I love this exercise because it facilitates self-awareness. And one of the things you'll hear me say zillions of times is we can only manage what we're aware of, right? And so you can think about that through, lots of different aspects of your human experience. And of course, it plays in the workplace as well. And so there's always this balance there too of leaning into your strengths, and making sure you're utilizing them as much as possible. And then also, we're going to get to opportunities as well. So like there's this balance there of making sure you're spending most of your time in your strengths while also being aware of your opportunities and leaning into those. But if you don't have any of this awareness, you can't manage and orient yourself to be working in your zones of genius. So it's just overall, that's one of the reasons why I really love the SWOT.
I'd like to add to that too. One of the things as we're talking about doing the SWOT, because doing the SWOT is going to help you if you're not firm in knowing what your purpose is. Remember this, and Ben, you can elaborate on this too if you want, which is your knowing your strength and knowing your purpose has nothing to do with what other people are telling you. It's knowing it from within. You don't need validation to know what your purpose is. That can be noise that actually distracts you from your real purpose. Wouldn't you say, Ben?
Yeah, I think one of the traps a lot of us fall into, I mean, we all want approval, and I'd say one pitfall is when our own self-confidence and self-belief in ourselves comes completely through the lens of others, and then you're just being pulled around by how other people view you. And I think that's a version of what you're speaking to, Tiffany.
Yeah. So let's talk about weaknesses. And I think for a lot of people, weaknesses is the easy analysis because most of us are extremely hard on ourselves. So when we say list our strengths, sometimes that can be more difficult than actually listing our weaknesses. So weaknesses are the things that you need to improve on, what you struggle with, and what you prefer to allow someone else to do. So as in a business, if you've done a SWOT analysis for a business, the goal of a weakness is not for the weakness to remain a weakness indefinitely. It's to hopefully convert it into something else, whether it be a strength or an opportunity, right? So you can think of that for yourself too. So we're always growing. We're never going to be perfect. So, but your weaknesses don't necessarily need to remain your weaknesses indefinitely for the rest of your life. Like I'm thinking of my childhood friend right now who hates fractions and math. So but you know what the truth is, it may not ever be her strength and she may never be a math teacher and engineer, and that's okay, but it doesn't necessarily need to be the thing that was always listed as a weakness. She can improve on that weakness. Ben, anything you'd like to add to that?
Yeah, for me personally, I think of I personally don't use the word weakness. I lump that or translate that to opportunities, and we'll talk about, I think, the opportunities in the SWOT. Maybe there's more distinction that you can help clarify, Tiffany, but for instance, like if I say, oh, I have a weakness with follow through, for me, the energy behind that is like I don't know, a little bit of guilt, a little bit of shame. It doesn't really feel very good, which isn't very motivating to look at it or work with it. But if I say I have a opportunity with follow through, I'm like, ooh, an opportunity that's much lighter. Or I have a golden opportunity with follow through. Now I'm excited about that. Now I see the pictures I'm seeing then, because the words we use shape the pictures and possibilities that we see. And when I say I have a golden opportunity with follow through, I see all the potential and all the good things if I were to turn that up. Whereas when I say I have a weakness with follow through, I see all the ways that it's holding me back. And so I think that just it's important for you to check yourself on and just notice more self awareness, like what are the emotions and energy that come up when you think about your weaknesses or opportunities, and how can you transform that to a positive outlook?
So I love that, Ben, because how I would transition, that sets me up for a great transition to go from weakness to opportunity. So weakness is a weakness when you do nothing about it. A weakness becomes an opportunity when you actively decide to turn it into an opportunity. So it goes back, like if we look at my childhood friend who hates math and fractions, it will forever remain a weakness unless she she's self-aware, but unless she does something to create the new frame around it as an opportunity, it will remain a weakness. So all weakness, like Ben said, weakness has kind of like this negative connotation, but a weakness can become an opportunity and become positive, but only with action.
Mm-hmm.
That's the key difference. Opportunity requires action. Just remember that. An opportunity is not an opportunity without action. And then threats. So what are obstacles or challenges are you facing that could potentially hold you back? That could be a variety of things. It could be external threats. It could be health. It could be self-limiting thoughts in your head. There could be a variety of things, but you got to look at threats. It could be like if you're looking to build your business, but you don't have the capital. So a threat could be not having the capital. So really got to look at what threats are. And again, just because the threat exists, the goal of the SWOT analysis is when you put something in one of these 4 buckets doesn't mean it lives there indefinitely. Once you recognize the threat can also, the goal is that the threat becomes a fill in the blank for me. Anybody?
Opportunity.
Thank you. Thank you. So that's the goal, is that the SWOT analysis is continually moving. You should always be looking at it, and nothing needs to stay in the bucket forever. You might even say, should a strength, technically strengths start shifting too. You don't necessarily have to keep the same strength in that bucket. They can start shifting too. And like I always say, what is usually the biggest threat to any business, to anybody? It's yourself. We're usually our own biggest threat. We're our own biggest obstacle because of how we usually talk to ourselves. I would like Ben to elaborate on that, because I feel like he probably speaks to this a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. So, have you all ever had that experience where you get a new car and then you start seeing that car on the road everywhere? Raise your hand if you had an experience like that before. Well, it's typically pretty common, and it's funny to think about what's happening there. And so, if we just double click on that for a moment, for me, I just rest her soul, I just sent my Toyota Camry to the junkyard recently. I had been driving her for 22 years since high school. I drove that car more years than I've not been driving that car. Rest in peace, Bam Bam. And I see Toyota Camrys everywhere now, right? Because it's part of, there's always there's more stimuli you could be aware of than your brain could possibly process at a time. So it's got to filter some things out, right? And your filter is called your reticular activating system. And so, okay, I have a Toyota Camry that tells my filter that that's important to me. So when I'm on the road, I see them everywhere. Now, for someone else, maybe that's like a Jeep Wrangler. Well, the thing about the reticular activating system is not only does it pick out and bring those Jeeps to your consciousness, it edits out others. So like, a Camry or an Accord are some of the most popular cars on the road. There are way more of those than Jeeps, but yet you see the Jeep because your filter is tuned to it. So again, here too, like the way you speak to yourself, whether you're focused on things that could go wrong or things that could go right, that's what your reticular activating system is going to go out and find and present to you and edit out the rest. So for instance, if you have a story that you tell yourself like nothing ever works out for me, your conscious attention is going to go, let me go find evidence for that. And I'm going to edit out the things that are going well for you. And so in that way, and this is why I love, like I said before, I love to think about my thinking and facilitate others to have experiences to think about it as well, because we actually have a lot more agency over what and how we experience what we have on a day-to-day basis than we're typically aware of. And I don't know if you've heard this before, you can only manage what you're aware of. So that's the really interesting thing about this slide and this concept, that you can be your own threat, and I would say you can be your own biggest opportunity as well.
Thank you, Ben. So now we're going to transition to purpose. So I would like to just highlight some really good quotes about purpose. So to psychologists, purpose is abiding attention to achieve a long-term goal that is both personally meaningful and makes a positive mark on the world. That's how Greater Good Science Center defines purpose. So think about that. Purpose is what's the key word in there? Is intention. It's what is the intent behind the purpose, right? What's your intent to do something meaningful, and what is the intent to leave a positive mark on the world? And then everybody knows Simon Sinek. People don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. And I say that so many times. When I say, I add the language to it, when they buy why you do it. What are they buying? They're buying your purpose. And ultimately, people who have a common purpose as you align with you and then become your most loyal customers. So if you follow marketing and branding at all, you hear about want to build a community. You want to build a community. Everything's about community. What is community? Community is purpose alignment. So just think about that. And then Michael Cooley says, every activity that is not aligned with your purpose is a waste of resources. And from a business perspective, I would say that 99% of business owners face this challenge, and they waste their time doing things that are not fulfilling their purpose, and that's what gets them depleted. So as you're making decisions and when you start becoming reactive and you're not basing everything you do around purpose and you become reactive, you become negative and you start losing sight of your purpose and your intention, ergo your vision. Oh, could you tell that I was a philosophy major? Ergo. Ben, anything you want to add there?
Yeah, these are great. I mean, I think one of the things that I love about this whole concept of a purpose ecosystem, we're all oversold to all the time these days, right? And you can tell, I think a lot of people, their purpose is related to making more money. And you can feel that. You all get in a conversation with someone or an interaction with someone, you can feel that. And so people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. And when you pick up on when someone's just trying to make a sale, it doesn't align, and people aren't going to align with that, and it doesn't come from service, right? And so we just, I don't know what the policy is on cursing in this space, but humans are great BS detectors, right? So when you are truly aligned with your purpose and you come from that space, it resonates with others. And if your purpose resonates with them, good things are going to happen. And I'll leave it at that.
I'd like to add to that too, and I always say this, and if you ever listen to me, I say this to Mike King because he asks me these questions about employees a lot. So everyone here I know has been or is an employee. And I want to know, when you get up in the morning, is your purpose to make your boss more money and that energizes you? No, I haven't met that person yet. And if that's you, no judgment. But I just haven't met that person yet, because that does not generally, if that's not a purpose. And usually when I work with business owners, and they, it's okay to set goal. We're not saying we got to ignore money, but it's okay to set it, like, let's say a revenue goal, growth goal. But why do you want to set that? And if all you're doing at the end of the day is setting this revenue growth goal because you're trying to prove something to the world, prove something to yourself, maybe prove something to a parent. I mean, I've seen it all. There's psychology in this as well. You're always chasing, trying to fill in a void that never gets filled. We can keep increasing the goal, but you're still feeling like I haven't accomplished what I wanted because you haven't rooted it in purpose. So as I say, profit is actually a residual of purpose. If you're actually focusing on your purpose, the profit will come. So purpose alignment is what I was saying. So I do personally love, ironically, I did not do this intentionally. I'm drinking out of a Starbucks mug, but I did a whole case study on Howard Schultz. If you know me, you're not surprised by this. And I like this quote: when you're surrounded by people who share a passionate commitment around a common purpose, anything is possible, right? So people are drawn to people who have a similar purpose. Like if you look at the company that is most well known for purpose is Patagonia. And Patagonia's purpose is rooted in doing right by the environment, right? And our ecosystem and sustainability. And they have created a whole community around that. Everybody who's buying Patagonia and supporting Patagonia, not only their customers, but the nonprofits and their whole ecosystem of purpose, they are all passionate around this commitment to sustainability and to the earth. And then I say, At its core, purpose alignment acknowledges that true success lies not just in achieving individual objectives, but in advancing a collective vision. It requires a deeper understanding of each party's motivations, beliefs, and priorities. By aligning these fundamental elements, we can create synergies that extend far beyond immediate gains, fostering collaboration, trust, and sustainable partnerships. So a purpose alignment is whenever you get people together who have a common purpose and you're recognizing them, you're seeing them as individuals, but now you're bringing them together. It's almost like, think of a marriage. If a marriage stays as two individuals, but they never become one, it becomes fractured. But when they come together and work for a common purpose, whatever they define that common purpose is, you see the growth, right? So the purpose alignment scenario on we're getting low on time, so I'm just going to hint at it because I already hinted at it before. Which you see this picture of like pollution, smokestacks from a plant, and you're probably thinking, why is that there? So I want to talk about General Motors a little bit and how even in a situation where you're closing plants and people are losing jobs, how does purpose alignment fit in such a grim scenario where you got hundreds and thousands of people losing jobs? Because at the end of the day, purpose alignment is about finding out what each individual is seeking and making sure there's an alignment there. So making sure in that particular scenario, there's an alignment with General Motors, but also with each individual. And as we go through this ecosystem, I'll reference that more and more and how I work to try to achieve some purpose alignment. And then purpose ecosystem is about collecting the power of the various entities to drive a significant sustainable impact. So there's a business ecosystem, and I'm sure you all are aware of a business ecosystem, right? Amazon, let's look at Amazon. Amazon has an ecosystem. They have an ecosystem of shippers, warehouses, vendors, suppliers. It's a very, right? You think of the supply chain management. A lot of time when you think of business ecosystem, that's the first thing that will pop into your head is supply chain, right? Purpose ecosystem is when everyone's coming together for a common purpose, right? So even if we look at Amazon, what could be the common purpose of everybody in that ecosystem? That common purpose can be getting goods and services to people as quickly as possible. So a lot of times, like if you listen to Jeff Bezos, he wasn't in the retail business or e-commerce business. He was in the distribution business. He saw that there was an issue getting goods and services from around the world to people in the most expedient of ways. So the purpose, that was their purpose, right? So anybody within that ecosystem, that would be a shared purpose. And if that is not a shared purpose, the longevity of that person staying within the ecosystem is not very long. So what are some core components of a purpose ecosystem? Passionate leaders, organizations, resources, can be financial knowledge, tools, etc., collaboration, communication, and coordination, innovation, and problem solving. So a purpose ecosystem drives purpose and creates positive impact because they work together to solve a problem. And in order to work together to solve a problem, this isn't like a purpose ecosystem actually has to have a plan. It has to have a strategy. It has to come together. Everybody has to know their role in an ecosystem. So when you have, let's say, a nonprofit and they have a bunch of donors, and every year these donors make their donation, that in and of itself is not an ecosystem. An ecosystem requires, I think I said it before. Tim, want to say that important word again? Action. Yes. So an ecosystem requires action. It takes planning. It takes strategy. Without that, it's not an ecosystem. So when you look at the ecosystem of our environment, every part of the environment has a role and a responsibility. And if you take that piece out, the ecosystem can fall apart, right? So everybody is interconnected and dependent on each other for a common purpose. And so what are the benefits? Amplified impact. Once you come together and you're working together, you have this strategy, you have the plan, and you're combining all the efforts, now you can actually make things happen. Resource efficiency. Now you're sharing resources to minimize waste and duplication of efforts and sustainability. Now this is a long-term commitment. We're not playing day by day, month by month, year by year, and hoping we can make some positive change. Because an ecosystem is much like, it's like you have a business and then you have another, that business or that entity or the individual is part of almost like another informal business. That ecosystems kind of think about it that way. You have departments within a business, but within an ecosystem you have departments as well. There is structure to it. Did you want to add anything, Ben?
I just wanted to share, thinking about this term ecosystem, I recently had the privilege to go to Arkansas and do a canoe trip down the Buffalo River in the Ozarks, and it's the first national scenic river in the US, and it's all through protected lands, and I was just blown away by the health of the ecosystem there. And wherever we saw like hundreds of bald eagles, all kinds of different fish, there were bugs, birds everywhere. So like any little pocket you put your attention on, you could see life, which I would say is the purpose of that natural ecosystem, just brimming. And so in the same way here, just as Tiffany's outlining these different roles and different pockets, wherever you put your attention, you can see the purpose being manifested. And that's like a key indicator of health. And it just had me thinking again back to that river trip. And I was just really blown away because it was inspiring, but it was also a little scary in that I was like, oh, I haven't actually been in a healthy natural ecosystem in a long time. Like, oh, this is what it should look like. And so, I'm thinking now, I'm making that connection, like this is what Empower's about, is how do we facilitate that in our own spaces, in this space together.
Thanks, Ben. So I think I've already hit it, but what is needed to build a strong purpose ecosystem, purpose alignment, engage diverse leaders and entities. So it's a matter of like ecosystems are stronger when you have for-profits, nonprofits, government entities, individuals, all these people coming together. Collaboration. Power is always in collaboration, and measuring impact. So as I was saying, ecosystem and purpose ecosystem requires action, and action, to know that your action is working, you actually need to be able to measure the impact. So your goals actually have to have some, KPIs have to be actually smart goals. So in summary, very short and quick, purpose equals intention. Without intention, it's not a purpose. Purpose alignment equals intention alignment. So folks have to be aligned in their intention to make that positive change in the world. And then purpose ecosystem, a collaboration to drive positive, sustainable impact. That's in essence what a purpose ecosystem is. And so that's the end of this course. And now I'm going to say bye-bye to the Facebook Live people. And then we'll open it up for some Q&A.